I went from gang life to fatherhood after my wife cheated on me with my cousin. Right now, I'm 39 years old. When I met my ex, Marisol, I was 18. I was a member of the Latin Kings gang at the time. I joined when I was 13 and was always getting in and out of trouble. Marisol used to go to church. My grandma made me go to Sunday Mass, where I saw her for the first time and fell in love. My cousin was a friend of hers, so I asked him to introduce us, but he said no. He told me not to bother her. He didn't want me to hurt her or ruin her. Have you ever met someone who made you want to be a better person so you could be with them? Wanted to be the man who did the right thing. She was the one. When I learned that she went to church almost every day, I waited for her on the steps and talked to her. I took her to and from church every time. She made me feel like I had value. Things went well, and soon we were dating, which made me feel great. I tried to stay away from gang life for 1.5 years. I got my JED, started going to church regularly, and was thinking about the future when I got pulled back in. I was in a store when I saw someone with whom I used to have trouble. I tried to not pay attention to what they were saying. I swear I did. I just let them talk and walked away. But when I was stabbed in the shoulder blade, I lost my mind and beat the crap out of him. I got caught, and all the things I did to make my life better seemed to go away all at once. Marisol was mad at me. My grandma kept bringing up my mistakes from the past, and my cousin told me he knew I wouldn't change. My public defender saw that I was trying to get better, and by God's help, I got out of jail after a month. Even though she was mad at me, Marisol came to see me almost every day. A month after I got out, I found out I was going to be a dad, and I didn't want my child to have a dad who was dead or in jail. We ran away to get married, and I went to trade school to learn how to be a mechanic. I worked hard for my future family. It was almost the worst day of my life when Luna was born. Marisol just kept bleeding. She went into shock, so they had to take out both of her uteruses. For months, she was in the hospital, and Luna became my whole world. I wanted her life to be the best it could be, and I wanted to give her everything. When Marisol was set free, I told her that our daughter would have a much better life than we did. I kept that promise for many years. I saved enough money to move my family to the suburbs. We bought a house, and if you can believe it, I was a Girl Scout leader. I made sure Luna went to a special school and knew how to defend herself, and I was always the best husband I could be. I didn't know who they were. I didn't have a good male role model, so I didn't know what a healthy relationship looked like. TV, that's a lie. My dads were the men I looked up to, and I tried to be like them in the way they were married on TV. As time went on, I got my own garage. My cousin became a pastor. My grandma was still a pain in the rear. My relationship with my wife was stronger than ever, and I made sure to keep my prison body. But Luna disliked me. She just started hating me when she turned 13. She told me not to hug her. Every time I told her I loved her, she rolled her eyes. I ask her about school and she doesn't answer. I was hurt, and Marisol could see it. She told me she's a girl and I shouldn't worry about it. I will see her again. It was like that for 2 years, so I wanted to go all out for her 15th birthday party. Even though she got everything she wanted, she was still rude, and for a moment, the old me almost came out to put her in her place. Instead, I went to my cousin and told him how upset I was and how I wasn't sure I was a good father. He told me to let her be and said a prayer for me. For the father-daughter dance, I wanted a picture show. I got most of the pictures of us together, but then I realized I didn't have any pictures of us from the last few years. She wasn't interested in any. The last time I had pictures of her smiling with me was on her 13th birthday, and those pictures were on my daughter's broken tablet. I took that tablet to a repair shop, didn't care how much it would cost, and they fixed it. I had to fix that tablet. After a day and $300 he gave up. I was happy when the tech fixed it. Even though I knew her PIN, I never broke into her privacy. I only wanted those pictures, and when I opened that tablet and looked in the album, there they were. My little girl was happy and smiling when she was with me. I was happy. Then came the instant texts. My daughter was speaking with my wife. It hurt when she told me over and over again that she didn't want me to dance with her, but as my wife said, she's just being a teenager. She then said something that broke my heart. She sent me a text message asking why she had to do the father-daughter dance with me if I wasn't her father. I felt like my heart stopped, got dizzy, felt like my mouth was drying out, and had to sit down. My wife said that I was her father because I raised her and loved her. But Luna said that my cousin is her father and that she can't wait until she turns 18 so she can tell me the truth and live with her real dad. That she didn't like me and was glad I wasn't her father. Marisol started swearing at her. My cousin told her that it was a mistake to tell her the truth 2 years ago, and the more they talked, the more angry I got. My wife told me lies for 15 years. My cousin, in whom I told him about my problems with Luna and my worries about being a bad parent, not only slept with my wife, but also made me raise his kid. I wanted them to get hurt. I felt some anger, sadness, and loss. If that makes any sense, I wanted to scream, cry, and die at the same time. I went to a bad place, and so I wouldn't do anything stupid. I told Marisol I needed to focus on work so I could pay for the quints. Instead, I drove to Manhattan and saw my old public defender, who wasn't a low-level attorney anymore. Near Midtown East, he had a nice, expensive business. I was shocked that he remembered me, but it turns out that I was his first case as a public defender. We both got comfortable, and I told him everything. When he turned on the tablet, the text just kept coming. This time, though, Luna was talking to her real father, who is my cousin, and he told her to give me a chance. Luna told him that he was always there for her, too. It makes sense that they have so much in common. She even called him Pappy several times when they were talking, and he told her she was his little girl. We talked about our choices, and then he asked me what I wanted to do. I told him I wanted to do the whole burned earth thing. I wanted to poison the well, and he asked me more than once if that's what I wanted, and each time I said yes. I also told him that everything had to be turned in 2 weeks before the quints. So, we sat down and talked about what needed to be done for the next 12 hours. I did everything he said to do. I put my business up for sale in secret. I called the private school and told them I won't be paying for next year. I closed the college accounts and Luna's savings account and got ready to put my house on the market online. No one knew anymore. I did exactly what he told me to do. Only one thing was different from what I did. The 15th birthday. That day went without any problems. There was the whole family. Luna was happy and having a good time. Marisol kept asking me if I was alright, but I told her I was fine. It was hard to lie to her. From the moment I met her, I never lied to her, and for the next 2 weeks, I kissed, hugged, and made love to her every time I saw her. It was hard to keep from yelling at her, hard not to dislike her. She let me raise another man's child even though she knew it. She had a one-night stand with my cousin, who I thought of as my brother, the godfather of my child, the best man at my elopement, and someone I could trust. So, to say the least, it was hard to hold back the anger. I called her to the center of the stage when it was time for the father-daughter dance. She looked upset, but she walked over anyway. I was listening to music, and she smiled at me. Seeing her smile broke my heart. I wanted to see that smile again for years, but now I didn't. I played the slideshow while we danced. There were pictures of us together, and at the end of the song, there were screenshots of her text messages with her real mother and real father. Obviously, this wasn't a good sign. Marisol looked like she saw a ghost. Luna kept staring at the big screen, and my cousin just kept looking at me with fear. Marisol ran up to me and said she could explain. I told her I had filed for a divorce, that she could tell the judge what happened. She grabbed my arm and begged me to help her, but I pulled away. I told Luna that I worked hard to give her the world, but she doesn't deserve it anymore. I started to leave, but not before I told my cousin that I would knock him out every time I saw him. Then I knocked him out. Things got bad after that. Marisol and Luna were at the apartment of my grandma. Her family was shocked and upset by what she did, and they didn't want anything to do with her. Her dad actually told me he was sorry. I have no idea why. Even though I changed my life, he never liked me. That man hated me, but now I was the perfect husband and father. But just a few days ago I was the former piece of shit. My grandmother had the nerve to tell me the story of Abraham and how, when he came back from war 3 years later, his wife had a 1-year-old child and he raised him as his own. So I told her to get the fuck out of my house. A few days later, Marisol came and started crying as soon as she saw me. She told me it was an accident, that when I was arrested, she was so mad at me, and my cousin was there to make her feel better. Things went from bad to worse, and they ended up having sex. It only happened once, and she's been true to me ever since. To show it, she was willing to take a lie detector test. So I asked her how long she had known that Luna wasn't hers, and she started crying more. The way she looked at me told me she knew from the start, so I asked her to leave. She wanted to go to therapy and told me that I was exaggerating and that we could work things out. I had to get over it because it was in the past. Even though what happened, I am Luna's father, and I let my anger get the best of me. I must have yelled "get over it" at full force over a dozen times as I grabbed her poop and threw it out the door. I called her a whore for lying. I told her I didn't want to see her fucking face ever again, and I told her that this life I built doesn't belong to her anymore. Then I shoved her out the door. After a few weeks, she kept calling me on my phone. Luna never once reached out to me. Marisol was surprised when she heard that I had sold my business, even more so when she heard I was having a house party. She came in yelling, told the people watching to leave her house, and begged me to call for help, that I was destroying our relationship, that I couldn't sell our house. We raised our child in this house, and I told her it was full of lies. I raised another man's child in this house, and when I sell it, I will give her half of the money. I told her to leave before I called the police. It was a trick, and all she had to do to get me jailed was play the victim. But she didn't. Instead, she played along. Soon after that, my cousin came to talk to me, but I knocked him out, dragged him outside, and shut the door. Marisol wanted to make up, but I said no to mediation. I wanted a divorce, so my lawyer asked for a fast-track divorce, and in 3 months we were in the Nassau County Courthouse. I hardly talked to anyone during that time. I had heard horror stories about the court system, especially during divorce procedures, but I didn't have that. I had a judge who was a woman and was very fair. Everything was taken care of by my lawyer. First, Marisol's lawyer tried to bring up the time I was in a gang, as if that made me a bad husband and father. My lawyer quickly shut that down, and the judge told her lawyer off for trying to shame someone who changed their life. My lawyer showed all the proof and offered a lump sum alimony payment since the house and business were going to be sold soon. Marisol kept asking me to change my mind at first, but I ignored her. When she finally saw that I wasn't going to change my mind, she agreed. But when it came to child support, that was when things really changed. My lawyer showed me all of the text messages that Luna sent to Marisol during their conversation. Luna said that she couldn't wait to be with her real father, which showed that she knew I wasn't her father and that she no longer had to lie a lie. Marisol was caught totally off guard by this. Then, my lawyer filed a motion to get my name taken off Luna's birth record, along with my last name, and to get me out of paying child support, since everyone agrees that my cousin is Luna's father. This surprised Marisol. She yelled at me and begged me not to do this to Luna. She said that I am Luna's father because I raised her, and as weak as I may sound right now, I would feel better if Luna didn't treat me that way. I would have agreed with her if she hadn't said those things. There were times when I wanted to reach out and try to make it work, but then I would look at Luna's constant text messages to her friends, her real father and mother, and I would get back to my decision. I'm still not sure what hurts the most. When a woman you thought was the love of your life lies to you, or when you try to give your child the best life possible, they just throw you away like trash. The judge was quiet for a long time as he read page after page of the text messages. She finally agreed. I wasn't responsible for Luna's money, so my name could be taken off the list. My lawyer also filed a motion for the courts to go after my cousin to get child support, and a motion to sue my cousin in civil court for all the money I've spent raising Luna. Private schools, dance lessons, Girl Scouts, and horseback riding classes. Everything I've ever spent on a child went to that child, and my lawyer told the judge that my cousin committed theft by letting me raise his daughter without giving me any money or help. It was a last-ditch effort, and the judge let it go. When the judge made her choice, I didn't bother to look at Marisol. As I left the courthouse, I didn't care to listen to what she had to say. As I heard her crying, I didn't care. She told me that she had only cheated once and had been loyal since then. I just no longer cared. A few weeks later, my ex called me and was shocked that I had stopped paying for Luna's private school and all of her activities. I told her to call her baby daddy before we hung up. Even Luna called me. It was the first time she had called me since this whole thing started, and she was crying that she had to go to public school, that they were moving back to the old neighborhood, that it was scary, and that she wanted us to be a family again. I told her to ask her real father, the one she really wanted, who was her biological father. I yelled at her and told her that she had known for years and that I had read all of their text messages and back and forth. She had said that she was glad that a thug like me wasn't her father, even though I haven't been a thug since I found out I was going to be a dad. After that, I ended the call. I thought many times about how to end it. I almost killed my cousin, but I made him pay instead. He had to pay me $500,000 right away. My ex agreed to the lump sum, so she didn't get any of the $500,000 because it was all mine. It didn't bother me that the church gave the money. I was in pain. I left New York soon after and went to Idaho, which was as far away as possible from New York. I just chose a state and city at random and left. I opened a new shop and bought a house, but I had trouble trusting people for 2 years. I went to a therapist for 2 years and went to rage rooms to learn how to deal with my anger. It wasn't easy. I stopped going to church for a while, but when I did, I met the man I'm going to marry. Jocelyn is great. She had just turned 30 at the time, and we got along great. I told her all about what had happened to me. I told her that I'm going to have trouble trusting people, and she got it. A year later, she told me that I was going to be a dad, and she demanded that I take a DNA test so that I could be sure. When my son was born, I remembered what it was like to be happy again. I had not talked to my grandma in years, so I called her. She cried, and when I told her about my son, she demanded I come to New York so she could meet her great-grandchild. She told me that she is 90 and would like to see me one more time to make me feel bad, and I agreed. We took a plane to New York, rented a car, and drove to Bushwick. The one thing about the neighborhood I don't like: if you run into just one person from your past, everyone in the neighborhood knows you're back. My grandma saw my son, met my fiance, made a side comment in Spanish about how white she was, and I just agreed with her until she died. I was going to stay for a week and try being a tourist for once. It was Jocelyn's first trip to New York City, and I wanted to make it a memorable one. Damn it, nothing goes the way I want it to. First, my ex called out my name from the basement. When I looked out the window, I couldn't believe how big she had gotten. In Spanish, my grandma told me to talk to Jocelyn, and Jocelyn agreed. When I got to the bottom of the stairs, I was awkwardly quiet for a minute, and then the anger rushed back like a wave. Marisol told me I looked good and told her she looked like shit. She told me she missed me and that she hadn't been with anyone else since we got divorced. But I didn't pay attention to her. She even told me I was a grandfather, which made me give her a look. It sounds like Luna went out with a nice guy and got pregnant at age 18. Her baby daddy joined the Marines to help them, and her father didn't want anything to do with her. He only pays child support and won't talk to her. He is no longer a pastor and now works 2 blocks away at the Banco Popular. Then she told me that Luna named the baby after me, and I couldn't look at her. Marisol told me to wait because Luna was coming over, but I didn't wait. Instead, I just left. I went to visit my grandma, and I didn't have to say anything to Jocelyn. She knew right away, and we left. I told her what happened in the elevator, and she smiled and told me everything would be fine. Marisol's expression as we left the building: she was looking at my fiancé like he was with someone else, and Jocelyn introduced her to my son without skipping a beat. "Well," she said, "I'd like you to meet his real child." That was a stab in the back, but she knew how I felt. Marisol tried over and over again to keep me from leaving. Luna was sorry for what she did, and Jocelyn wanted me to make up for it, but I was so mad. I ran to the car and got in. I didn't listen to Marisol's pleas, and Jocelyn told me to make peace, so I gave her my phone number so Luna could call me. I don't know what I was thinking when I saw my cousin by the Cuchifrito stand when the light was red. I got out of the car, ran up to him, and beat him up. Jocelyn was yelling at me to stop, and when we looked at each other, I could see how scared she was. I spat on him and ran away. I'm at home again. You have to work, be a good father, and be a good fiancé to a beautiful woman. But since I've been back, my anger comes back when I'm alone with my thoughts. Luna did send me a text message with a picture of her happy with her son and an apology for what she had done. Still, I don't know if she's sorry because she missed me or because the man she thought was her father turned out to be someone else. I don't know what's going on, and I'm afraid to talk to her. I want this to be over with. I want to get past this. My daughter was my whole world, and my family was everything to me. Even after all these years, it still hurts and makes me angry, but I know I need to move on. But it's hard. I really want to talk to Luna, but I'm so afraid. People have told me to let her back in, but all I could think about were the lies and text messages. Lies all the time. I need help, and the ways I usually try to get it aren't working. Thank you for taking the time to read this. I don't care if you think this is fake, as I already said. I really don't care, but I do appreciate your help. First news. It's been a while, and yesterday was Father's Day, so I'm waiting for the moderators to accept this. Luna called me several times, and I answered each time. I wanted to answer, but I didn't. All I could think about were those texts, though. What she told her real father, her mother, and her friends. So I didn't answer it. Eventually, I listened to her voicemail, and she sounded so happy. She apologized quickly for what she had done, but it didn't sound sincere or active to me. Maybe I'm making too much of it. She told me about her son and her money, and she asked me to call her. Simple requests made me very angry. My grandmother and fiancé tell me to give her a chance, but when I asked my grandmother if Luna or Marisol had ever asked about me in the 4 years since I left, she said Marisol did it all the time, but Luna never did. So, in my crazy head, I think Luna wants me in her life so I can take care of her kid. Or she might want to milk me, which made me so mad. Even Marisol tried to call me all the time, and I'm already thinking about changing my number. So, I spent most of my dad's day at the gym hitting the heavy bag, and I have an anger management group meeting today. Maybe they can tell me what someone else thinks. If this is ever posted by the moderators, I'd also like to hear what you think. I'm trying to figure this out on my own for now. Second news. I'd like to thank LuigianFiggy42 for the help he gave me on how to send my first email. I sent Luna a short email that just said, "What do you want?" I wasn't expecting a long answer. She started the email by saying she was sorry for how she had behaved. She said she was angry when she found out I wasn't her father. She told her mother the truth, and her mother cried and promised not to tell me. She started talking to my cousin, her real father, more and more because she felt lost. He told her about the aggressive things I used to do and other things I had kept from her. This made her mad, and the more time they spent together, the farther away she got from me. She said she felt bad sometimes, but my cousin would make her feel better about how she felt about me. On the day of the quince, she told us that she noticed how stupid she was acting while we were dancing. She found out how much I loved her, and then her words started showing up on the screen. In the days that followed, my wife's family told her to give me some space, not to call me, and she did what I said. She said that because of her, her family was falling apart, and there was nothing she could do to fix it. She told me that she knew why I had done what I had done. Still, she wanted to make contact. Her grandpa kept telling her, "I love you, I raised you, and I will do the right thing no matter what I saw in your messages." She believed him. During the split, her mom went to a very bad place. She wasn't talking to her or eating much, so she was just living. She said she had a panic attack when she found out that my name was taken off of her birth certificate. When she asked about her life in school, her mother told her that they will have to move back to Brooklyn. Her mother told her, "That's the life your father gave you, and he's not your father anymore." So she called me and begged, and I yelled at her and hung up. She kept crying for days. She tried to talk to my cousin, but he didn't pay much attention to her. He told her to leave when she went to church. She was called a mistake by him. Her mother wouldn't talk to her and would only leave the room to go to the bathroom or take a shower. She begged her grandpa to take her to see me, but when they got to Long Island, she found out that I had moved. Her grandfather told her that he would ask my grandma where I was and get back to her. She said that the next 2 years were terrible. What happened to her and her mother was known by everyone in the neighborhood. Her father tried to stay away from her at all costs and not pay child support. Her grandfather had to scare him to get him to pay. Her mother didn't talk to her during this time. Just now, she was locked in her room. When they did talk, she told her that she was selfish and that she was the reason she lost the love of her life. Her grandfather had to put her mother in her place by telling her that she lost the love of her life because she cheated on him. Her mother then locked herself back in the room. Luna didn't spend much time at home, and that's how she met the father of her child. They were the same age and he worked at the corner store. After a few months of talking, one thing led to another and she got pregnant. Her grandpa was very angry, but when her boyfriend said he would marry her, it made him calm down. Luna said that her pregnancy was a gift that came in a different form. Her mother started talking to her again and even started leaving the room to be by her side at every checkup. Even though she was a senior in high school and pregnant, she made it work. She finished a month before the baby was born, and her boyfriend joined the Marines. He wanted to run away with her before he left, but she wants to get married. Her boyfriend didn't think twice about giving his son my name. His father didn't seem to be there, and the fact that he was a junior reminded him that he had the same name as a man who didn't want him. When she heard I was in town, she tried to get to my grandmother's room as fast as she could. She asked about me. She wanted to say she was sorry and show me her son. Just to see me, that was all. She was late, though, and she cried. When her mother gave her my number, she wanted to call me right away, but everyone in the area was talking about how I beat up her father, so she waited. Her mother was sad to see that I had moved on and had a son. When Luna found out she had a little boy, she was happy, but her mother became a little sadder. I really felt bad for Marisol. I called Marisol and asked if this was true after I read the email. She wouldn't talk to Luna for years and said she was to blame for our breakup. She said it was true, and at first I yelled at her, but when I heard her crying, I calmed down. I told her to get on with it. She told you to find someone else. She told me that I am her husband and will always be her husband. It hurt my feelings a little. Then I had my grandma go see my cousin so I could talk to him. He started crying as soon as he heard my voice and begged me to forgive him. I just asked him why he wasn't Luna's dad. Why did he turn her against me? He said it was because he was jealous. He loved Marisol, but I took her away from him. He made her feel better when I was arrested. He used her and was only with her for a second before she noticed what she was doing. She tried to push him away, but he was already there. He knew the baby was his when she told him she was pregnant. Both of them knew. The plan was to keep it a secret. Marisol thought that God gave her a double hysterectomy as punishment for cheating on her husband and lying to him. He was drunk when he turned 13. Seeing my life, the one sin he couldn't get rid of was envy, so he tried to make it bad. He did, too. I told him that when we meet again in hell, I will be his torturer for all of time, and then I ended the call. Jocelyn was there for me, and she told me that everything would be okay. Luna and I wrote each other emails. I talked to her on April 4th. She cried for more than an hour while we talked. I talked to her boyfriend, and he asked me if he could marry her. I thought it was funny and nice at the same time. Jocelyn wants me to ask Luna to my wedding next month, which is in a month. On the other hand, Luna wants me to give her away at her November wedding. My future father-in-law sat me down and told me that he couldn't understand my situation, but that he respected the path I chose, because the road saved his little girl, gave him a handsome grandson, and gave him a future son-in-law he would kill for. He was very grateful for the road. I laughed at that, but he told me I should stop being angry and start forgiving, but I should never forget. He is correct. So we invited Luna to my wedding and even offered to pay for her plane ticket. Her boyfriend, or should I say fiancé, said he would work it off at my garage when they got there. I like him kind of. Regarding my giving her away, I don't know yet. Let's wait and see what happens at the wedding first. Again, thank you for the help and the few direct messages. No one was rude or rude to anyone else. You guys really helped me out. I'll let you know if anything happens, but I have to get ready for my wedding next month right now. Update final. So much has changed in such a short amount of time. Again, I'd like to thank the many people who have helped me in the DMs. There were, of course, hateful messages, but all I could tell those people was that what they would have done and what I did were two different things, and until you've been in the same or a similar position, don't tell me how I should have felt. I was already very careful before the wedding. Jocelyn was the happiest person I've ever seen, but my in-laws were freaking out about how many people were going to be there. I'm sure that everyone in town was there. I was an hour and a half away in Boise, waiting for Luna and her family to arrive at the airport. We talked in the days before she came to visit. A lot. Her crying and saying sorry most of the time, and me just listening. I was talking to her more grounded fiancé when she couldn't talk anymore. I was so scared when they got off the plane, not because I was afraid to see her again, but because I was mad at her. I was worried I would lose my cool. When she saw me at the airport, she ran up to me and started crying. For a split second, I saw my daughter when she was 7 years old. I was strange because I could see a child in my thoughts. She ran up to me yelling, "Daddy." And as soon as she hugged me, she started crying loudly. So many people looked at us because it sounded like a wail. She just kept saying she was sorry. She asked me to forgive her, and I just held her for more than 15 minutes. She wouldn't let me leave. We had to work together to get her to do it. It was as if she thought that if she let go, I would be gone. After she calmed down, her fiancé introduced himself properly, and then they showed me their baby. I won't lie, but I did cry. Even though I wasn't mad, I cried when I held this baby. When Luna was 19, she looked just like her mother, which made me wonder about Marisol. On the way home, we talked about her fiancé's boot camp and how he's going to be a working man. We also talked about how Luna was going to college online to learn accounting. When we got to my house, Jocelyn and her family were waiting for us with a spread. Since we've been together, Jocelyn has learned how to make Spanish food, but she went a little too far the week before Luna came to visit. I get that she was trying to stand out, though. She got along great with Luna, and every few minutes Luna would come up to me, give me a quick hug, and then walk back to Jocelyn. Just then, I was holding my son's child. While Jocelyn was telling her family about Luna, I put the babies to bed and went out on the porch to get some fresh air. Luna's fiancé was standing at the bottom of the yard, looking at all the bisons that were roaming around. I wanted to talk to him like a dad for a second, but I didn't think it was my job. I asked him how he liked the view instead, and he was blown away. I know how you feel. If you've lived in a city for most of your life, wide open areas are amazing to see. After a minute or two, he looked at me and said that Luna was very sorry. I've been with your daughter for 3 years, and she hasn't stopped talking about how much she misses you and how sorry she is for what she did. Out of everything he said to me, that one line keeps playing over and over in my head. Roberto is the name of her fiancé, but he acts and talks like a man in his 30s even though he is only 19 years old. That makes me think he had a hard life if he grew up so fast. I know how you feel. The next day, I had to go to the store, and Luna and the baby almost ran into the car with me. Roberto himself told her it was fine and to have fun. Luna looked like she was going to pass out, so I told her we'd only work half a day, and I'd spend the rest of the day with her. That seemed to do the trick, and I slowly began to understand how badly Luna had been hurt. I asked Roberto how bad she was while we were driving. She has a lot of problems with being alone and is always afraid that he will leave her, even though he tells her he won't. She calls him a lot and can be a little too attached at times. At first, she was afraid to be herself out of fear that they would break up if she did. He had to tell her again that he loved her so she could relax a little. I made this happen, even though I know that he doesn't blame me. He told me that he knew exactly why I did what I did. Let me start by saying that Roberto is a bad mechanic. He doesn't know anything about cars, so I had him clean up the shop so he could work off the plane passes. We closed early, and when Luna and I got there, she almost ran to me. She seemed out of control. I told her I'd be back soon, and she went to talk to her fiancé. When I got home, Jocelyn told me Luna needs to hear that everything will be okay. I'll never leave her again. I didn't know what to say, but Jocelyn grabbed my hands and told me that Luna is hurting and that she needs her father. For the next few days, I did nothing but hang out with Luna, getting to know her again. I took her to the ranch where my in-laws live and showed her the bison and elks, as well as taking her on a walk. 2 days before the wedding, I told her I was sorry that I had to leave. I'm sorry for how I did things, and I'm sorry for what I did. She didn't care about any of it. She told me that I didn't need to say sorry for anything. She said that she knows she was the reason why everything fell apart and that I had to stop her. I started crying, and I told her she wasn't to blame. I was angry and hurt, but I should be the one to apologize because of what happened. Both of us were crying, and we just held each other. Luna looked a little bit better, and she was happy on the day of my wedding. Jocelyn made her a bridesmaid at the last minute and Roberto a groomsman. The wedding was beautiful. During the reception, I asked the DJ to play the song from Luna's Quince and asked her to dance with me. She was crying the whole time, and as we danced, she held on to me for dear life. It's been a long time since I was this happy. I let Luna and her fiancé stay at my house while I went on my honeymoon to Hawaii. They took care of Luna's little brother. She was happy when we got home. She gave us hugs, which felt great. Roberto told me that he is going to Camp Dwyer in Afghanistan and would like Luna to stay with us. Until he could buy a house, he would pay for an apartment near us. I said yes, of course. The day before yesterday, they went back to the city. As I said, it's been a busy time. In November, Luna will get married, and in December, Roberto will leave. Roberto sent me what amounts to a year's rent for a townhouse neighborhood 3 miles from my house. Jocelyn, on the other hand, thinks we should put a double-wide trailer on our land for Luna and let her save money so she can buy a house when Roberto comes back. Marisol has been calling me a lot, and from the texts she's left, it sounds like she doesn't like that Luna is moving. Right now, my main priorities are my family and making things right with my daughter.